everybody. Welcome back to this special edition of In the Weeds on the floor from Expo Canna in Uncasville, Connecticut at Mohegan Sun. I'm Jimmy Young, the founder of Pro Cannabis Media and the host of In the Weeds. And this woman who joins me now, Nichelle Santos, is someone I've run into a few times at a variety of trade shows, and she's always been one of the most friendly people at the show. So this time she asked me for an interview, and I said, I'm not going to say no to you. Hi, Nichelle.
Hi, Jimmy. It's great to be here with you today. We're so excited to be at the Cannabis Expo up here in beautiful Connecticut.
Isn't it amazing now that you now have New Jersey, New York, Connecticut, the tri-state area, is all adult use legal?
Yes, it's just so exciting to watch the industry blossom and grow and see the creation of all these new cannapreneurs. And we're just so pleased to be a part of the industry and to help protect the industry with making their businesses more resilient and sustainable with risk management and insurance.
See, you set me up. That was well done. Really good. Life is about risk reward. Anybody who plays golf certainly understands that analogy. As you know, everything comes back to sports with me. But risk in the cannabis industry is double because there's so many regulations, so many compliance issues. How many claims do you normally get from regular industry versus the cannabis industry?
Well, high risk, high reward, but there's a lot that happens in between. There's many risks that are inherent to the cannabis industry, and what we try to do is help protect our clients to become more proactive in running their business, understanding those risks, how to mitigate the risk. So we'll come out and do a risk assessment to illuminate what those risks are, identify the gaps, help them make recommendations for a risk mitigation plan, for corrective action. And then the third step is risk transfer, and that's insurance, making sure in the event that there's a claim that you have coverage. But it's really important that you be able to show that your compliance, that you're following your SOPs, and you have your risk management plans in practice.
Absolutely. And of course, there are two rules. There are rules for the plant touching universe, and there's rules for the ancillary universe that are basically, they call you an MRB, a marijuana related business. And that's what Pro Cannabis Media is. So we too we've been victimized by the banking situation, let's just say. And I'm not here to get any sympathy or anything like that. I'm just here to tell the story. And I'm guessing that the plant touching part of this has a little bit more of a risk than the ancillary. Am I guessing right?
Correct. Anyone who's plant touching, you're dealing with the plant directly. Cultivation, there's risk of infestation, whether it's mold, fungus, bugs. So having the right environmental controls in place, working, using organic products, fertilizers, pesticides are very helpful, right? Having quality control in place. We don't like to see heavy metals in our cannabis, right?
There's a new strain out called heavy metal.
There's new strains coming out every day, Jimmy. So do I know them all? No, I don't. But yeah, I've heard about heavy metal.
You have heard about it?
Yes.
I happened to interview the guy at NECAN a couple weeks ago, so that's why. And my brain, it just goes all over the place. I understand the challenges. I understand the risks. How are we going to get to normalization, not necessarily legalization? The stigma is still all around this industry, and because they're muted, if you will. A lot of people have always wanted to mute me, and they can't share the benefits of the plant because the town government, the city government, the state government, the federal government doesn't want them to do that. So how in the world are they canna curious? Those who are not part of the 20% of Americans who smoke every day or use it every day. I try not to smoke it as much anymore. That being said, how are we going to get to normalization?
Well, we're going to get to normalization by doing things just like this, getting the word out to help alleviate that stigma. We've all been trained in this country from the war on drugs. This is your brain on drugs, and it's bad. So there's quite a history from the criminalization and prohibition from Harry Anslinger to Richard Nixon, and then the militarization of the policing and black and brown communities, that cannabis was really used as a weapon against black and brown people, when it's black and brown people who have built this industry. They built this cannabis infrastructure, and now the MSOs, the multi-state operators, are just coming in with the infusing cash, right? And it's a plug and play. It's an opportunity, right? This is a capitalist society, so.
Glad you said that, because all they're doing is running a business at a level that isn't the same as the craft grower. And I hang on a second, because I always say, in a young industry, a new industry, you need MSOs in order to pay and move the needle in the federal government in the lobbying world. This is a capitalist-free society. How much money do you think Big Pharma spends on lobbying? Because every other commercial I see on television is another freaking drug. And cannabis is a plant. That alone is still not drilled into the heads of our leaders. Am I right?
Cannabis is a plant, and the plant is a medicine. And that's why I chose to become the state director in New Jersey, Minorities for Medical Marijuana, again, to educate people, empower people about the plant, to help normalize, alleviate that stigma, and provide other Canna entrepreneurs with the tools and resources so they can run efficient, successful businesses.
Okay, so one of the cool things, you mentioned it a few times, the entrepreneurial spirit of people in this industry, and also just the character of the people in this industry. You meet a lot of people. Is there anyone in particular that you saw and you go, wow, they did a great job with this? Who do you admire as far as your people, in, besides Canna Coverage?
Well, we're here at Mohegan Sun, right? So talk about the symbology. And one of my new sisters that I met, Shanae of the Shennequa tribe, she came to visit us today because I met her at the Women's Cannabis Summit at the Green Market Summit in New York City.
It's Deborah Borchards.
Yes, Deborah is fantastic.
Deborah is fantastic. We love her. She worked with me for a couple of years, and now she's so busy she just can't spare any more time, but we still love her. So the Native Americans, another ethnic group that was victimized by the white man, let's just say. And are we going to ever get to the point where people of color have access to the capital that they need? Are we ever going to get to the point where it is a truly free market?
Well, it's always going to be a challenge, but how we achieve equity, inclusiveness, diversity, and equity will be up to all of us. We have to act as a community. One thing I love about the cannabis industry is the Canna culture. People coming together, wanting to help one another, supporting social justice, social equity, health equity, and changing policy. That's how we impact change.
We want to impact change. And one of the things that you mentioned just now is embracing our differences, which is really one of the lessons I learned from a guy named Lenny Zakem, the late Lenny Zakem, the Northeast Regional Director of the Anti-Defamation League for 25 years. It's one of the, I left full-time sportscaster work to go work with this guy because he's such a powerful man. It was the closest thing to a human prophet I've ever met. Okay, so that's another story, but it is about seeing someone who's different than you, and instead of walking away or going up to them and saying, hey, how you doing? Yeah. Right? And then you find out something you actually have in common with them. And by the way, there are plenty of things like, oh, I've smoked a lot of weed with a lot of people of color. It's just, I'm sorry, it's part of the culture.
Yeah.
Oh, did you hear what she said? Pass the peace pipe.
Wherever
We know
the
the pilgrims. Okay, the pilgrims were passing the peace pipe with the Native Americans that arrived on our shores.
It was the Native Americans that created the peace pipe and shared it with the pilgrims.
And it probably came from Asia because they'd been using it for 2,000 years. Anyway, that's another story for another day. Look, it was so great to talk with you again and sit down. This is really the first time we've had an interview, right?
Yes. An interview with you. Yes.
An interview with me. We know what that means. Anyway, Nichelle Santos, thank you so much from Canna Coverage. If you want to get in touch with Nichelle, how do we do that, Nichelle?
www.canna coverage, see behind us, CANNA, coverage.net.
What do we do without the Canna prefix, right? All right, that's going to wrap us up here from the floor of the Expo Canna at Mohegan Sun. I'm Jimmy Young, the founder of Pro Cannabis Media, host of In the Weeds, and remember, it's a whole new world of weed out there. Use it responsibly. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening.